Gaming is my second language besides English, and when I was a kid, games were my escape, a place I could go to get away from all the annoying stuff going on around me and my sister. These days, that love has grown into my biggest hobby and a growing desire to play all kinds of stuff. From the newest big titles with big set pieces to the indie gems that deserve way more attention that they're getting. But nowadays, as I play these new games, I get this feeling like something I used to play and adore, but I just can't remember it. It's like there's this memory of this game tugging at my face. Something I can almost remember, but I could never really remember it because of my shitty memory. Also, this video is not really scripted, it's kind of unscripted, but I just wanted to tell you about something that happened the past couple of months. Anyway, as I was saying, this memory I had was of a game from when I was a kid, growing up with a basic PC, you know, the white yellowing PC. It was one of those things that just wouldn't leave me alone. I couldn't remember much about it, not the name, the characters, absolutely nothing. I just had this image of a top-down view on a map, and that you're controlling a team of superheroes, like imagine Marvel's Diablo. And the memory that it had helped shaped this love for gaming I have today. I'd catch myself thinking about it at the strangest times. I'd see an old comic book cover and it'd trigger a flicker of recognition, like I was in That's So Raven or something. I'd watch some cheesy superhero flick from the early 2000s and feel the nostalgia just creeping in.
He can hear it before it makes a sound.
This game was a total mystery, and I knew it existed. The funny thing was, the harder I tried to remember, the fuzzier it became. All I had was the feeling of what it had been like to play as a kid. The power fantasy of commanding a team of heroes, fighting villains, feeling like you were in the pages of a real comic book. It was like crack to my little preteen brain. After years of letting this memory kind of float around in my head, nagging at me like a puzzle with a missing piece or something, I finally decided it was time to figure it out. Enough was enough. I sat down and did some Googling. I thought it'd be simple to find, but turned into something so much bigger. I was ready to get my hands on the game, because at that point it had been 2 decades. The internet can be a magical place for a lot of reasons, but it's especially useful for nostalgic searches like this. I knew there had to be others out there who remembered this game. Surely, I'm not the only one. And so I searched, if you can imagine endless Google searches like early 2000s superhero PC game, comic book hero strategy game, old school superhero RPG, then you're picturing what I did. I tried going through Reddit as well, but all the Redditors just tipped their caps at me and wouldn't say a thing. For a while, I had nothing but dead ends. I came across games I'd never even heard of. Games that looked kind of familiar, but weren't it. I joined forums, read more Reddit threads, combed through lists of superhero games from that era, all in the hope that I'd find some spark of recognition. It was driving me crazy. Like following clues in a detective novel where the mystery just kept getting nowhere. It sucked. And then one night, we had friends come over for dinner, and I was casually telling them of my search. And my friend David, who's even more of a gamer than I am, said, "Oh, are you talking about Freedom Force?" My memory came flooding back, like I'd been handed the missing key to a locked part of my brain. Freedom Force! I felt the recognition so strongly. It was like I was holding the case in my hands again, like I could already see the heroes, the battles, the world I'd once been obsessed with. Now that I had the name, I knew what I had to do. I tracked down a totally legit copy from the 7 Seas, got it installed and booted it up. And as soon as I saw the loading screen, it was like traveling back in time. Seriously, I felt like a kid again. Like I was right back in my old room, staring at the big fat computer monitor, waiting for the game to start. There was a strange, intense feeling of anticipation, like I was about to reconnect with an old friend that I haven't seen in a long time. Anyone who's reconnected with a piece of their childhood after a very long time knows exactly what I'm talking about. And when the main menu music played, it hit me. I knew this game. I knew it inside and out. Like it had just been waiting for me to come back. I jumped right in. I watched the origin cutscene for Minuteman, the Captain America ripoff. It was like meeting those long lost friends all over again. There was Minuteman, El Diablo, the Latino with fire powers, and Manbot, the dude inside a power suit. Now that I'm older, I can clearly see this was Marvel's homework, but I didn't care, dude. These characters were more than pixels on a screen. They were personalities, they had quirks and powers that somehow made a deep impression on my dumb preteen mind again.
Hey, Catherine, how about a date?
Hey, gorgeous, wait up.
What a knockout.
Come on, Dollface. Won't you let me take you out tonight?
I'd love to, boys, but my allergies are killing me.
What could a sweet thing like you be allergic to?
Man.
I have to say, jumping back into Freedom Force was like riding a bike. The first mission was fun, albeit a bit slower than I remember. It took a few tries, some trial and error, and a fair bit of swearing, but I got a ways into the game just like I did back in the day. And when I did, it was like reliving a childhood memory. Also, it reminded me that back then, games didn't hand you victories. You really had to earn them. And when you did, it felt like an actual achievement. Not on the level of Dark Souls and such, but that was what the games back then did. It didn't just play themselves like the games do nowadays. This wasn't just some game you plowed through in a weekend. It was an experience that required patience and persistence. Anyway, as I progressed, the real magic of Freedom Force began to unfold again. This game wasn't just a superhero adventure, it was like a living, breathing comic book. This was what I felt back when I first played it 2 decades ago. The characters had their own backstories, personalities, and arcs, and the art style was like the silver age of comics, the 60s. I think it's the 60s. Bold, colorful, and totally unapologetic. It was clear to me that the creators loved superheroes, loved comic books, they loved everything that made these stories larger than life. Speaking of the creators, I googled who made this. Do you know who worked on this game? Of course you don't, because you just heard of this. It's Ken Levine. Before he struck gold with BioShock, he was part of the team that made Freedom Force. And the sequel. He made just as many Freedom Force games as he's made BioShock games. That's insane. How could I forget this game? Okay, anyway, back to the game. On the surface, Minuteman looked just like a Captain America knockoff, and he mostly was, but he also had his own origin story, his own motivations. He was every bit the Patriot, but in a way that felt tongue-in-cheek and affectionate. Man-O-War wasn't just a fish man. He had depth, quirks, a whole personality that made him more than just another hero in spandex. Each character in Freedom Force felt crafted with care, and nowhere is this more apparent than in the origin stories of each of them. Each and every one of the heroes you could choose from in this game had a cutscene that explains who they are, how they got their powers, and what their motivations are. For 2002, this is absolutely incredible. Holy shit, man. 2002? This was long before the modern wave of superhero games. There was no Marvel Spider-Man 2, no Batman Arkham Asylum, no MCUs that everyone was tired of. This game took a big step in an era when superheroes were just starting to claw their way back into pop culture. If you need some context, this game released worldwide just 4 months before the first Spider-Man movie. And that's what most people consider to have kicked off the superhero craze in media. It was definitely a passion project. A game that wasn't afraid to be campy, colorful, and even ridiculous. Playing through Freedom Force again was, you could call it a trip down memory lane. It felt like finding a part of my childhood that had been waiting for me, frozen in time. I eventually realized that this game was part of something bigger, a legacy that paved the way for the superhero games we know today. It showed me that superheroes didn't have to be gritty or realistic like the Zack Snyder stuff. They could be fun and campy and full of heart, just like the Spider-Man movie later that year and the sequel. If you think this game looks fun, give it a go. Shortly after I found this game, I also found it on Steam. I don't know how this game's been eluding me for this long. And if you think I gave too much away, this game even has a sequel where you fight Nazis. Freedom Force didn't just capture the essence of superheroes or what we think superheroes are supposed to be. It celebrated it. It was a game made by fans like Ken Levine for fans. And every pixel, every line of dialogue, every ridiculous mission was crafted with the kind of love that's rare. Did it just give me back a memory? It reminded me why I love superheroes, why I love games, and why sometimes the things we think we've forgotten have actually shaped us in ways we never even realized. It was a reminder of a simpler time, of the things that made me fall in love with video games in the first place. It brought back a piece of my childhood, gave me a little victory over a long lost memory, so cool, and left me feeling like I'd reconnected with an old friend. So here's my advice. If there's a game, a movie, or a memory that's been nagging at you to have you remember it, go find it. Dive back into that part of yourself, because sometimes the things we once loved and left behind are the things that made us who we are. And if you're lucky, you'll get to relive the magic all over again. Thanks for sticking in this video. It's a bit more informal than all my other videos, which, I mean, they're all good videos. You should go watch them. But this one I've been wanting to do for quite a while. And I like the way it turned out into this big old detective search and whatever. And yeah, thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. I was rearranging our garage when I found my old crate with all my old stuff. Some toys, some puzzles, some books, and my old computer games. San Andreas, lovely. Battlefield Middle-earth 2, incredible. Zoo Tycoon 2, fine. And the beauty, Freedom Force. Does this still have the disc? It still has the discs. Absolutely incredible.